Welcome once again to Syntax Error, your pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast ostensibly about video gaming and related topics therein. Warning, this podcast contains mature language, content, and spoilers. You have been warned. Hello, and welcome back again to Syntax Error. Today's discussion will be a Dragon Age sort of overview, and perhaps we'll get into little various facets of the entire series and what we think of them. Generally, we'll be talking about all three games, the trilogy, if you will, and as I said, just about how good we think they are and why they are so good compared to other possible same games in the same genre / setting. So I am Scott Thurlow, of course, as always, and I'm joined today by Ian Manzer.
Hello.
And also Stephanie Kozic.
Hello.
And so I'll just start off. Actually, let's do a quick disclosure. I played Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. Did not play Origins. Ian, you have...
I played Origins, but none of the others.
And Steph?
I have played all three.
Okay, all three. So we got... And amongst us, all three of us, we've played all three games. So I'll ask you guys... I'll go with Steph first. I think you played them recently and all in a row. I'm sure the marathon's kind of hardcore there. So what do you think... Give me your top couple of aspects and reasons why Dragon Age as a series is such a quality setting and world.
For me, it's the story. The story, the way each game connects...
I agree
to the next, and the way the characters are consistent and actually grow. You can actually see their personalities flourish and grow, throughout the entire series. So it's fascinating not only from a story perspective, but also from a character perspective as well.
Ian?
I agree with the story aspect. The gameplay is lackluster, but the story overall, they have spent so much time in developing this universe. There's hours of just literature you can read detailing everything from the cultural aspects of a small region within the state to in-depth a whole history of this religion and how it's progressed throughout time. So Scott?
I agree. I agree with both of that. Of course, I say they put so much effort and careful detail into their characters and setting, and yes, link it all together. It all the mythology makes sense, and it's all not linear, but they reference things that happen. Like Inquisition reference things that happen in Origins and so forth. So they always have very careful attention paid, and I think the fans of Bioware appreciate that. I certainly do. That you don't see that level of care put into the world building and consistency of it.
And to me, that's what separates it from something like Elder Scrolls, where the character development isn't as deep, but maybe the gameplay is a little bit better, and it also has that really deep history.
Agreed.
On that point, a lot of RPGs tend to make you the hero of the world, where in the Dragon Age, you're part of this greater combat as far as their heroes have come before and heroes who will take after. And it all feels very organic for the world they've set up.
I agree with that. Yeah, so it's a classic fantasy RPG thing, hero of the world, and like Steph just said, Elder Scrolls thing, they also have a lot of deep lore that is very interesting, and the world building is kind of consistent. But yes, I think in terms of that, Bioware does a better job of sort of having that set up and using it well, and again tying it all back together. You can. In Inquisition, of course, you're the Inquisitor, and that's sort of a big deal. You're a very important part of the world. You're shaping the world almost. And I think I'm going to argue when we get into it in a much more meaningful way than 2, for sure. I don't know about Origins. You can tell me about what you think about that. But certainly, it was just more epic in scope and feel than almost any other fantasy game in recent memory.
Well, we can continue to discuss how wonderful the narrative is. I like to go into kind of some of the issues that I have with the game.
Go for it.
The gameplay, as I mentioned in my introduction, is lackluster, and I felt that in Origins you had the option between the default settings of how your companion AI works, or you could adjust them, and
tweak
that. And that learning curve was incredibly steep. I pride myself on being an intelligent gamer and understanding mechanics, but it triggered my neuroticism that I didn't know. I had no idea whether this was the optimal kind of
setup or build or
setup for my characters to have. So I was very frustrated when trying to customize my party. And if you play the default, you don't see all the abilities your characters have to offer.
You probably won't. That's true.
Won't, yeah.
I didn't even know that Morrigan was a shapeshifter until I started. I was halfway through the game and actually took a look into all the abilities they had. Like, why have I never seen any of this? And that's because the default never addressed those.
Just won't use it. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in how my feelings and origins there, but how has Steph? You played the original game. What were your feelings on that?
I thought I never played Dragon Age for the gameplay. It was always for the story. So it didn't matter to me. I stayed with the default settings. I played with it a little bit, and I would sometimes, if a particular character's actions were driving me crazy, like a mage, like maybe Morgan running to the front line,
tanking all that shit,
and getting killed, I would go in and then adjust it and say, no, will you please stay in the back? So I would go into the mechanics that way, but otherwise I realized that there was a lot of depth to it, and there is in Inquisition as well, which I really haven't played with because it's just not what I'm there for.
That's fair. Like, I think you can do it both ways, of course, and probably many people have. Like, it's there if you want to mess around with that kind of stuff.
You can go. You can play Inquisition hardcore, and it'd be extremely difficult.
I played Inquisition on hard, and I did mess around with my characters, like set up and build and stuff. Yeah, because you want to see all the stuff. I want to see them use it, or like some of the stuff was so super effective at the end that I wanted them to be doing nothing but that, and they wouldn't have if I hadn't told them specifically to do it. But you certainly don't have to. I agree with you that it's somewhat of a learning curve. It's like they're throwing a lot of shit at you, and they're like, figure it out, But I like it's not like they're not. It's not that it isn't tutorialized. Just there's so much of it,
especially with the top down.
Exactly.
Mechanics you can get into. Like organizing where your party goes. I
agree with that. It's sort of unnecessary. Like, it's nice again that it's there, but it was almost like you didn't need it. It was easier to have it in real-time combat and just do that, and that was dynamic enough, complex enough that there was almost no reason. Yes, again, it's nice that they have that RTS kind of feel, like view.
Yeah, it's a little nod to the strategy people.
Sure, and that's cool. I mean, that's good on Bioware for that, but you don't need it. But again, they're cool enough that they do it. They put enough effort into having it.
It actually reminds me of like the old school RPG PC games of my youth.
Yeah, and that's what they're kind of going for.
Where I would actually have to read a manual about how to make all the adjustments on my characters. And I don't know, that seems like a relic of the past almost, where game players nowadays, like, they're used to kind of the streamlined. To go back to one of another fantasy series, the Elder Scrolls. You went from a Morrowind, which had a very
pretty esoteric
skill tree where you're doing everything. You're specializing in specific weapon types. To Skyrim, which was extremely streamlined, and
in terms of that, sure,
where you just did like weapons or ranged weapons or melee weapons. So I feel that that culture is going in a direction where you're pulling to. Like it's training people to have this kind of easy access to the skill sets and building their characters that way. And now you have this game coming in, which is kind of going backwards in that, for better or worse.
Yes, no, I guess kind of. Okay. I see what you mean, for sure. It's just that, I think, like you said, it sort of is a nod back to the old hardcore, like, old school RPG fans. If it's there, if you want it to be, I can see you're saying, like, they could maybe cut it out or step it down a bit. But I think their fans sort of are expecting that. And, again, BioWare is known for that. And they will give back to their fans who want it.
Well, this is a question I have for both of you then. Do you think that Dragon Age is accessible to casual gamers?
Yes, I do. Because of the fact that you can tone down the battles and the difficulty level in the combat so that you can move through the story, which is honestly the way I play a lot of times, because I don't want to get stuck fighting the same person 100 times when I really am there to find out what's going to happen next with the story.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, I think that, yes, I agree that it can be, because you can bump down the difficulty. I played Inquisition on hard for the most part, and yes, there were certain, like, a couple of dragon battles, I just had to turn it back down to normal because I was getting stomped and murdered, like, over and over. But by and large, I bumped it up to hard. There's also fucking nightmare difficulty or whatever, like, just even, which I did not play. But regardless, like, I liked the challenge, and I wanted to see it. I was very interested, of course, in the story because it's so well done. I think that is the main broad appeal, of course, of BioWare games and Dragon Age specifically.
So would you recommend the Dragon Ages for someone who is more interested in gameplay versus story, someone who might enjoy the romp without having to read all of the codex messages?
Like more of a casual gamer, you mean? Someone who's...
Yeah, not necessarily a Call of Duty fan, because I don't want to, like...
Stop stereotyping people.
Yes. But, like, someone who's interested in... what's a good... or a fan of, like, someone who is Skyrim, or kind of like...
What's more action-y oriented, and you're saying, like, kind of...
Yes, and the story is second to, in a sense, the gameplay.
Yeah, I would, though. I would, because you can increase the gameplay. You know, that's sort of like a nice option that they built in, is that you can increase the gameplay level significantly, or just bring it down, exactly. And you're like, I really don't want to deal with that. Just tell me a story.
Yeah, again, like...
Let me play a movie.
Exactly, I agree. In the same sense that the option is there to mess around with your character's builds and so forth, the option is also there to mess around with difficulty. So if you want a challenge, you can have it. Or if you just want to see the story and just kind of like go through the battles themselves, you can do that too. So, like I said, Bioware is really good about including that kind of broad thing. So yeah, it can be accessible to like maybe those gamers who didn't grow up like you and I, like hardcore RPGs. You can still get into an RPG and experience the awesome story and so forth and the characters without without bogging yourself down in the basically micromanagement, essentially every fucking thing. So yeah,
this is where Elder Scrolls is a little less kind, because in Elder Scrolls you can wander into a world, you can wander into an area
and get murdered
easily.
That's true. Yeah.
And in in Dragon Age it's harder.
It's more difficult to do that.
It's more difficult to do that.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Like, it's sort of the Bethesda thing, kind of.
Although, I must say, there's one specific encounter that comes to mind. When you start progressing with Leliana's story and Origins, you get ambushed by people trying to kill her.
Yes.
And that battle was incredibly difficult. I actually had to drop it down in difficulty in order to beat it. The environment's against you. The enemies are on a higher level than you, and they're firing down upon you. You have to run this huge circuit to get to them, and they're smiting you the entire time. So that occasionally does happen.
Agreed. I was probably on casual though, so I didn't experience it quite as intensely as
it wasn't as noticeable, perhaps, but still, yeah, sure. So I'm going to talk to Steph for a bit. Ian, shut up. You can't speak to this. I want to talk about 2 real quickly, because I think it ties into both things we just said.
Well, we're introduced to Corypheus.
Yeah, that's true. It was a good setup. Basically, 2 was its entire plot was set up for Inquisition. Like that's how I viewed it, and like so it just didn't feel as epic. It was an okay game, like, and even gameplay wise, it certainly was a much more smoother experience in Inquisition. The gameplay combat was alright, serviceable in 2, but the thing is, like, and yes, the characters, like Anders and all of that was really good. It just that there was nothing at stake really. Like, I'm just a dude in this town with like. Yeah, Varric is awesome. I really like Varric as a character. Talk about him. I love him. His voice acting is amazing, and his writing is amazing. He's a writer in universe. He's known for like writing like basically like noir fantasy tales and stuff, like detective fantasy shit. It's awesome. You can read some of his books, but it's just that you're in Kirkwall like doing all this shit, but nothing like the world is all those shit's happening in the world. You're not like shaping the world in a way you are in Inquisition.
No,
and like so
limited.
For like for basically the first 2 acts of the game, we're all just sort of like digging around stuff. To me, like, yes, the story was going on, and yes, they introduced Corypheus and the setup, but there was no, like, the climax of the game was, like, the biggest cliffhanger ever.
Ever, yep.
So, in that sense, it was sort of, like, not as epic, whereas, as I say, Inquisition might be one of the most epic games I have ever played, because it's the way it played out.
Though I have to say it worked, because the cliffhanger aspect worked, because as soon as I finished 2... I had to go go get 3. I had to go get 3 because I needed to know what happened.
I get it. That's true. Just that it took so long. It was something felt like such a like a meandering journey until they got to that point in 2.
Agreed.
But I liked everything in it. It just it felt like I was the hero of one. Yeah, I was the hero of Kirkwall, but not of like Thedas.
Right.
But from what I read, it was almost had to be that way since they had to pump out a sequel to Origins.
So like
while Inquisition was their plan all along.
Yeah,
it's my criticism.
Exactly. Is my criticism valid? Maybe like not. It doesn't deserve it as much because that was like sort of their vision, like always kind of. And I think, but given that they paid it off in Inquisition, so yeah, fine. It's fine. Like I'll forgive it in the end. It was all came together very well, and they did such a good job that it was worth it in that sense.
Plus, as you said, it was a good way to introduce a lot of the characters that were prominent in Inquisition, like Cassandra and Varric and. You know, you get like a little glimpse of Liliana at the very end of Origins. Right. You're like, oh my god, there she is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the framework of 2 might be the best because it's Cassandra like interrogating
really
Varric. So
really
it's basically
great
Varric telling the story of what happened, which I thought was very good framework. But certainly, Inquisition setup and framework, there's no really framework. It's like, as I said, the Darkspawn of all, like the captain of all the original Darkspawn, like shows up, and that's like the threat to the world.
In a DLC, no less.
Yeah,
which was a really interesting way to do it.
Was it an archdemon?
No, he was like the first magister back in the Tevinter Empire to like assault.
That's what they think.
That's what they say. Yeah, it's so clouded. Like it's really well done because they say, I think they say even he might not remember what the hell is happening. Yeah, but he's like he can control Darkspawn. He's like ultimate level 10 Darkspawn essentially, like whatever you want to call it. But
he may be a magister from Tevinter, but they're not sure.
He tried to depose the gods in the Golden City or whatever.
I'm actually very happy that you told me that, because in Origins they really don't give you a definite answer to what the Darkspawn are. They
leave it a mystery.
The Chantry offers a version of it, like mages offer another version of it, like folklore. And so I'm glad that they didn't provide any answers. That they keep up.
It's good narrative. Yeah, of course, agreed. Like Bioware has really top quality writers, and that's why they can do like such a complex and intriguing story and keep it fresh and interesting throughout, and like want you to keep like learning more about it. I think something you said they do very well. Like you have like hints and legends and myths about what's happening, but nobody knows for sure. And you get them like the mages will tell you one thing, and the Chantry says like and something else, or some guy in the street like I heard this, like you're like a random NPC will like say something to you, like But yeah, all that adds up to like the incredible detailed world building that they have.
So
good.
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to discuss kind of the gender and species roles that play within Dragon Age. Again, I've only seen it through Origins, but I've played Origins a couple of times. I'm kind of a neurotic completionist, so I'm attempting to play it 4 times. I played it twice so far. I'm on my third.
To get the endings?
Yeah, to get all the endings. So I've seen the world through a number of different eyes. But to me, and perhaps this is biased because I am a white male human.
It's biased. It's going to be biased.
Obviously.
Okay.
But I feel that if there were to be a canon ending to Origins, it would be the human male storyline. Every other storyline seems to... They have details within the world. The dwarf noble is dealing with politics at home in the dwarf society. The mage gets into some... issues in the Mage's Tower, and you actually meet a character who you knew as a student back in the day. But all these seem like kind of places where the human male has a greater story, is part of the greater world there, and also in the sense the love interests with the DLC Witch Hunt kind of suggests that you were a male that fell in love with Morrigan,
and then she would just automatically take you with her in the end, which I have a problem with.
Morgan was cold-hearted.
That's one of the places where they drop out of, where they lose the character.
It's ludonarrative dissonance for that moment, for that little thing,
And Alistair becomes king, but I never particularly bought that you would give up being Grey Warden to be queen, I think it was, that you can marry him if the... So it seems to me that the canon ending is the male human. And I just want... you played Origins, Steph. Am I wrong with that?
It's interesting when you were just talking about that. I was thinking about Inquisition and the fact that now I'm playing Inquisition as a non-human character, and the reaction I'm getting from the NPCs is, "Oh my God, you're not a human. Like you're not." I haven't played a female character, so I'm not getting that aspect of it. But playing a non-human race. People are constantly saying, "Oh my God, you're the Inquisitor, and you're not a human. You're a Canary, or you're an elf." And so I think that kind of lends to that theory.
I think they do, again, really good commentary on that. Like the Canary are, they're prejudiced. Many people don't trust them. They're the outsider race. And I myself played a Canary in my first playthrough, and that, again, there were many little comments that certainly I would not have heard if I wasn't that character, that they say, like, they'll just comment upon it, or, like, you'll even hear a conversation, like, it's supposed to be behind your back, but you can still hear it, and, they'll say something like, "Oh, I can't believe the Inquisitor is a Canary, like, whoever heard of such a thing?"
He's so tall.
Yeah, it's like little touches like that, but that change based upon, yes, your gender and your race.
Well, you couldn't play both. You couldn't play the Canary in the first game.
Yeah, that's true. That was one of the big draws of Inquisition. That's true, and I found it interesting to play one.
Yeah. So, in Inquisition and in 2, did you feel that there was specifically pushing towards one over the other being like what a canon should be?
Not really. Like, I can see why people may say that. I will say one thing. We'll mention. Steph can talk about it in a sec. When Hawk shows up as the cameo in Inquisition, if you didn't do all the keep stuff like answer all your questions, fill out your history, then yes, he's generic white human fighter. Like, but I mean, I think that's more endemic of like games in general, as we talked about a number of times. Like, yeah, Bioware is really good otherwise, but they still sort of falterly default back to that, if nothing else.
Yeah, that was disappointing, actually. Though I have to say, I remember having a discussion with Liliana in Inquisition, and she mentions the hero of Ferelden as a woman.
Oh, yeah?
Which I thought was interesting.
Was it? I didn't remember that. I didn't catch that.
In the tent, in Haven, yes.
Okay. That's cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's something I didn't catch. Yeah.
Changes that whole
there you go. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But on a broader spectrum, though, I tend to find that when females are portrayed in games, they're either incredibly sexualized and feminized to one end, or they're masculinized to the other end, in the sense to make everything gender neutral, but it's still neutral masculine.
Yeah.
And I also remember when they first started really introducing female characters in RPGs. Morrowind, I think, is a perfect example. There was a romance subplot in Morrowind, only one, and to get it, you had to be a male. So it seemed like it was, we're having females in the game.
It was like a token thing, sort of. Like,
yes.
They pretty much assumed, like, I think this is still true, they're probably assuming that you're going to be like a male gamer. Like, maybe that's changing like recently, but again, it's the stereotypical like default like thing to do. Like, it's just endemic of humanity. Really, I don't know what to say about that. It's not like specific to Dragon Age. Like, it's everywhere.
Yes.
But I get what you're saying. Sure. So I'll give you a quick example, and Steph can jump in as well if it was. I wanted to have a relationship with Liliana in Inquisition. I flirted with her like every chance I could. I didn't know that you could, like, she won't accept anyone at all as a romantic interest. So I didn't tell you this. I'll tell you the story now. I ended up flirting with Josephine for like early on.
Oh, okay.
So
I
like
did that too.
I was almost like I wasn't quite in a relationship. I was doing like her like side things. The last one was like she was already betrothed to somebody or something like that. It's supposed to open up a war map mission. Like her last one. She was like I took her on a date. Took her to the docks of the city of Orlesian and like a Gavrify, whatever. And so, like, we were like, yes, I could, like, hey, want to get away for a moment, and we go, like, make out somewhere. But I still wasn't, like, in a relationship. Like, the trophy wasn't there for it. And so I was also flirting with Cassandra the whole time. So there was something weird, like, something plot-wise, or it took too long. Something happened where her final mission to get rid of her betrothed, or to get around her betrothed, didn't happen. And I ended up getting with Cassandra. I was with Cassandra. Mm-hmm. Like, that was when the trophy/achievement came up. And I was with her. But to your point, like, yes, Cassandra sort of falls into kind of both. She's sexy with an accent, but she's also like the warrior, like, knight, seeker. Yeah, she's got like a scar on her face, and she's always like, I just want to kill things, like, essentially, like, like you can get, so you can get a relationship with her, but she does fall into that stereotype kind of thing, even though she's a very interesting character. But there are aspects of her that carry that.
Agreed. Where Josephine doesn't. She's more.
Yeah, I
she's
thought
not
she was
a
an interesting character. Yeah,
I thought she was a very interesting character. It's nice to have like that diplomat.
Yeah, it was
aspect.
It was a nice touch. I agree with that. So just to your point, like, it seems like they're trying to cover more ground.
Like, I think Inquisition definitely tried to cover more ground and sort of give you more variety of, like, realize like, females can be lots of things other than like large-breasted sword carrying.
Yeah, that's Red Sonja or whatever. Yeah.
There could be a whole range of people. So I like that, and I actually hope that shows up in the next Dragon Age as well. Well,
I believe so, because BioWare, I feel, does a very good job of characterizing.
They're invested in narrative first and foremost, it seems, and they know that, and they're going to work more on that and get better at it, I think, as it goes on, as good as they already have done. Maybe something else. Something else I want to say. Maybe I forget. Did you have another question or anything?
I suppose.
That's not written down.
Would you prefer, for narrative's sake, a story absent of a woman, or a woman with a half-assed characterization?
Cheap characterization.
Cheap characterization. I can't go for the half-assed cheap characterization part. If that's the case, then don't
why bother?
It in. Why bother? Because then I'm just going to be insulted and annoyed, and I probably won't want to finish.
She'd probably hate the game even more. Yeah, or like, if there was nothing.
Do it right or don't do it at all.
That's funny. Oh, I'll bring something else up. Speaking of like, okay, so not only gender and race, in Inquisition, you can meet a spirit, like a demon, who becomes part of your party. Cole. And so, like...
Love him.
That's, like, another aspect. Like, people are like, holy shit, you're trusting a spirit and a demon? Like, he's gonna murder... Like, it's a big, like, you can choose whether or not to, like... You know, and there's a quest... one of his side personal quests is to either, A, have him accept being a demon or spirit, or having him accept being human. And it changes up his stats, I think, or some of his skill stuff.
Yeah.
But it's another thing. Like, people like, we can't have... we're fighting demons right now. You cannot have one in the Inquisition.
And then it's the discussion of whether or not he's actually a demon.
Exactly.
Is he a
like,
spirit?
It gets even deeper than that.
And you have everybody weighing in. You have Solus weighing in, and Cassandra, and Vivian, and...
Exactly. So it's like another level, I think, that they added in there. To like another, like, comment.
He's a fascinating character. Exactly. I love him. Agreed. He was a great addition.
Oh, to that point, I think... one of my favorite parts of Dragon Age was the Fade.
Yeah. Then you should play Inquisition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I feel it kind of got into the thing with Oblivion had a problem with every time you went into the
to Oblivion,
to the Daedric plane,
to the planes.
It was just copy and pasted math.
It was.
Especially since
for the most part.
Oblivion was, but it was an older game, so you know what I mean. Like, I get what you mean, though. Go on.
But especially since all the lore spoke to it being this wonderful, and the Fade in Origins somewhat did that, although there were times when you got to see like that kind of almost soulless world that's shaped upon ours. But I particularly love the Mage's Origins story when you go in and you're actually interacting with different spirits there. You have one of the spirits of Valor, who you have a sloth demon who's just way too lazy to even deal with you.
That's a perfect commentary. That's really
exactly. And they play with your mind with the Pride Demon. So like, all of these kind of, in a sense, generic enemies are well characterized.
They're characterized themselves.
Yeah, because they're an exact specific emotion, and I think that they did it very well.
It's you want to talk about the Fade. The first thing that happens in Inquisition is like you falling out of the Fade, and that's like the opening cutscene. And you actually like there are quests and missions to be done within the Fade, which I thought was really cool. Like they visualize the Fade essentially. And that's really interesting. Good.
According to lore in the first one, every time you're in the Fade, you can see the Black City in the distance.
Yeah.
I don't believe they had that in the original Origins.
I don't remember seeing it myself.
I don't think so.
Can you in Inquisition? Can you see that in the distance?
I don't.
You may have been able to. I wasn't looking for it. Like it could have been. It could have been a detail they included in the background that I missed.
Yeah.
I can't answer for you outright. I'd have to go back and look.
I was really
they mention it a lot though. They mentioned they don't.
It is.
I'm not sure if they visualize it though.
I don't remember seeing it, but also again, I don't remember really looking for it specifically.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Steph and I
maybe
it's possible, but
my Canary playthrough. I'm not there yet.
But regardless, there were still a lot of cool things, interesting. They fleshed out the Fade, if you will, like more than they've ever done before, and especially that you go like now you have to go into the Fade because Corypheus is linked to the Fade and all it's all plot related reasons, but it's all very well done.
Was the Fade prominent in 2?
No, hardly at all.
No.
They mention it, but you don't even
go there in 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Again, because you're just dicking around in Kirkwall.
You're basically just hanging around Kirkwall.
Not doing much. Like, you're working for Varys and his brother, like mining shit, like whatever. Like, yeah, so like I said, that's why like it just yes, it was a good story, but it was like a very small scale story. Yeah, until shit goes wrong at the end, sure, but I don't know. There's one interesting thing I'll bring up about the relationship thing. Bring it back quick to that. And there's one of your advisors in Inquisition, Colin. If you're male or female, you can have a relationship with him, whatever your character is. So like that's another option. Perhaps it didn't. Anders, I believe, was gay also in 2. And the other who's the Tevinter mage that shows up?
Dorian.
Yes, he's like I prefer men. Like he's like well, here I am. I'm a Tevinter mage and I'm gay.
And
I'm trying to help you save the world. So you want my help or not?
Origins had an elf that was gay.
I can't remember.
Who was
I didn't play, but
a bard or something like that.
I don't know.
No, he was kind of he was bisexual. You could have, but it's kind of very stereotypical the way they played him
in Origins.
Yes.
I thought it was much more. I thought Dorian was very well. He was like, "Hello, I'm a mage." He was like, he had a mission. There's a reason why he showed up, and like, it wasn't like a big part of his character. It was just sort of a background thing. But his mission, like the mission that he wanted to help you with, was way more important to him than anything else. And I thought that was very well characterized. That's why he's like, I want to join the Inquisition because I know I have more knowledge than probably many other people, and I can help you. You want my help or not? Like I thought Sarah actually was the weakest character. I kind of hated her.
Yeah, I was disappointed.
She was annoying.
She wasn't.
I never took her with me at anything.
I've never. I think I've taken her on 1 or 2 missions.
She's really annoying.
I think
she's all right. She was like,
she's okay.
Yeah, I didn't particularly care for her.
Quirky.
Yeah, sure. Like, I get it that what they wanted her to do, but it was all like she would be like playing pranks and like, Corypheus is going to destroy. So like, there's no time to do that.
I felt like her and Vivian were more.
I liked Vivian well enough.
A little more to the side.
A little more in the
anyway.
Background, maybe. Yeah, I agree with that.
I can't think of any characters and origins that annoyed me.
Yeah, okay. I was on pretty good terms with almost everyone in my party, in Inquisition at least.
And you had your dog in Origins.
Oh, you did? Like in Fable? Like
no, yeah, you had your Mabari.
Yeah, Mabari Hound, and
yeah. All right, well, cool. I guess.
And it's actually interesting in the party camp. If you go and talk to the dog, you get to see all of the characters' interactions with the dog.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So,
I don't remember.
So Sten.
I have to go back and play it now. I guess.
Sten is the stoic Canary warrior who just went down and. Your dog is growling at him. He just growls back and like nods and like you're a good warrior.
That's a good moment.
Well, you gotta do that in 2 as well because you can have the dog. The dog's at your house.
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah,
the dog's at your house, usually in front of the fire. I don't think you can take him anywhere.
No, he just sort of like window dressing.
He's just kind of like hangs around.
But I totally forgot about that.
He plays with the dwarf who comes to be your man, your manservant.
Yes.
His son, whose name I can't remember.
That's right. I remember that happening. I don't remember their names. You're right.
I can't remember
again because I felt that was the weakest, so I didn't.
Enchantment.
Yeah, that's right. But not like. I actually like Vivian. She was pretty good. I tried to get with her, and she was like, she also, I think, I don't know if you can or not. I flirted with her a lot, and she was like, I don't have time for this. I have to do the court stuff. I'm the court mage. She was like, almost like, you're beneath me. Like, I'm the fucking Inquisitor. Like, what are you talking about?
No.
But either way, it was very well done. Like, she basically joined you for political reasons. But yes, she's also a mage, so like, she's helpful for it. Like, it made sense to the plot again as well. Actually, I think Iron Bull, I believe, is also male, female. You can have a relationship with him. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Pretty sure about that.
Yeah, he'll take it.
Which is pretty good. Yeah.
Actually, the way you meet Liliana in Origins is pretty fascinating. You don't know anything about her past when she initially joins.
Is she the left-handed divine in Origins? Like, what is her
Not
role?
at that point.
She's not yet.
Not
She's
yet.
just like a sister or whatever.
Yeah.
But not only that, but like she believes God speaks to her, and she comes off as like this crazy,
like a little
Joan of Arc. All right,
and then as you progress, you slowly, or if you know all the right answers, you can get instantly figure out her entire past.
Sure,
but I don't know. It was interesting to see that progression over time of her character, and then to find out what she ends up as later on.
Again, I loved her. I loved her role and her as a character in Inquisition. There was a side little mission you could do with her where she tracks down like a traitor or something like that, like a rival. One of her rivals from like the spy she started or whatever, and like you can have her like she has a knife to this. It's another woman, so Liliana puts a knife on this woman, and you can be like do it or like you're better than that pastor. I of course had her do it because she's like she's spy master, like sitting throats is like her bread and butter. I would think like so like but again like they fleshed out even more than that. Like, yes, she outright says she's like I'm the spy master. Like I'll be your spy master now. That's what I did for the divine. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Like I've been doing this for a long time, so you should trust me. That was cool.
I feel that most people who played Inquisition probably had played Origins before.
Most certainly. So
yeah.
I think I'm a weird case. Fair enough. True.
Though at the same time, you can't. They let you sort of get more into her in Origins, and they pulled back on her though completely, so that she's not in 2. But then in 3, she's back in again. But you really can't get into her story like
past,
you did in 1, really? Which is interesting. It's like they pulled in the reins on her a little bit and let everybody else come forward. So,
well, maybe because they wanted to keep her. Maybe like they.
I'm
knew
hoping they're keeping her. Maybe
they wanted to keep her a little bit more mysterious still. So like again they gave her a couple more things. Like you could ask her about her past and she could give you like some vague like answer, but. They wanted to keep it more mysterious to perhaps use her more in the future. That'd be awesome. In the future,
which would be great.
I agree. Yeah.
Also, if you make her the forefront of the game, where like she's not a playable character, correct?
No.
So that would make her a kind of a dominant character.
Yeah, that's true.
So as you're letting others take the forefront and keeping her as not necessarily an Easter egg, but kind of a just a connection
sort of
between all the
I'll give you a funny analogy maybe. She's like the Nick Fury of like that world. Like, you know one's gonna beat him, but he's there advising you, and they know their jobs very well, and everyone knows that they're good at them.
The only time you can play her is in the DLC,
the C, right? Which I heard about that, right?
Which fleshes out the backstory.
Wait.
Liliana's song from Oranges.
You could play her.
You play her, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew about that.
So by the time you actually get to control
that's
her,
cool.
so to speak.
That's really cool. Fair enough, yeah. So yeah, I don't know, like I said, I'll tell you another quick story. I'm just gonna throw out like things that I like from it. Yes, I like Varric a lot, and there was one moment when you're in the palace mission, when you're like doing all like the noble, like wooing the nobles. And I think it was a background thing where like a group of nobles are gathered and they're talking about Varys' books. And he's like, later on, when you're back in what's the other one? Skyhold. He's like, I didn't know it was so popular in Orlais. I had to have a few words with my publisher. The first word being you, and the next one being bastard. Like that's just such an hilarious little moment that you could have missed. Like I'm not sure if that triggers all the time, or if you have to like have had to have heard that conversation.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had him at the palace in that mission.
I brought him everywhere. Like I felt to me like the reason why he could write all these books is that he's like the fucking Forrest Gump sort of he's like everywhere. He's always involved in all this shit. He's like always whatever's happening. He's like, hey, I'm here. Like. So like it was funny, but I loved his banter, of course, so that's why I did that too. Yeah.
Can we talk about the end of 3?
Sure.
Because this is something that's been troubling me ever since I watched it.
Let's do it.
And I know that there's something in that story that's leading up because it ties back to 1.
Yeah, which I didn't know that. Like I didn't know as much detail they're tying it back. Like that you're talking about the after epilogue scene, right?
Okay. Yes, where you see Solus and Flemeth / Mythal.
Yeah, there's a big reveal.
Interact.
Yeah.
Flemeth makes a return?
Flemeth makes a return because apparently she can't be killed despite,
they explain
despite
like
Morgan's
efforts. Shit, yeah.
And it turns out that I probably should have said spoiler alert first.
It's fine. Everyone knows.
That she is actually Mythal.
Or like has like the spirit,
has the spirit of Mythal.
A part of Mythal is in her, so she's like the reincarnation-ish thing. All that, it's a weird little thing.
Was Mythal the barbarian?
No, that elven goddess thing.
Oh, okay.
God or something.
Elven like ultimate power essentially. But Solus is alright.
But
you go ahead.
But Solus.
Who's Solus?
But who? The question at the end is who's Solus? Who I took with me on every mission.
I took him a lot too.
I love him. And then to find out at the end...
It was a really good rug pull and twist.
It was fantastic to find out that he's Dread Wolf.
Yeah. It's badass. Like it's like a 5-minute epilogue scene, and it's them confronting each other like in the fade. And she's like, "Hello, Dread Wolf," and like it's him.
And it leaves you standing there holding your controller with your mouth hanging open to the floor, and then he
like absorbs her. He like whoops her powers essentially. It was badass.
It was seriously badass.
But and Solus,
but such a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was perfectly done. Like narratively, like the best sequel hook you could have ever had.
And the fact that they did it in front of an Illuvian.
Yeah, that's true.
Makes it even better.
Illuvians are like come up in the plot. You know, the mirrors that you can travel through the fade. Like the elves created them. So you find like one of the quests is to get one working. And so Solus is like it's like after having seen that scene. I thought back, I was like, he just sort of is there at the beginning. Like, who the fuck is this guy?
I know.
He's just like a random elven mage. He's like an apostate mage.
I happen to be walking through the woods,
like, okay.
And
but now it makes perfect sense because he was like, he was like sort of not the big bad, but he's behind the scenes the whole time. But like, so it all makes sense because every conversation you have, you can ask him about the Fade, and they will tell you at length like his journeys in the Fade. But of course, because he like is the Fade, like
he probably lives there or something.
Exactly. So,
and at the same time, what I wondered after that is I was always fascinated by his room in Skyhold and the way the mural on the wall progressed.
Look about that
as the game went on.
I did not notice that.
It does. It progresses as it starts. When you first get the Skyhold, it's blank.
They're so good.
And as things happen, the mural. I was fascinated by it. I'm like, I want to paint a room in my house. Like
That's awesome. I didn't notice that at all. But it's really cool.
It progresses as it goes along, and I started thinking, are there clues in here to what happens? And so, if you could go back and take a look at that and let me know if you see anything.
I will. I'll load up my game and look what it's like. But I didn't like. Yes, I noticed Skyhold like more shit shows up, but I didn't notice his room specifically about that.
His room changes because I would go talk to him all the time looking for like.
That's true. I would talk to everybody, but I guess I didn't pay enough attention to it, or like just wasn't paying close enough attention because I was just running around. Like every time I go to Skyhold, of course I would run around to everybody.
You gotta go talk to everybody
and see what they have to say. Of course, so like I was like trying to get it all done. Like my little circuit of talking to you, and you, all that. But no, that's really fucking cool. Again, another testament to BioWare's awesomeness. That if
detail,
the
attention to detail is amazing.
Exactly.
I have a really random question here. Did you play the DLC where you get the headquarters for the wardens? Like it's under siege by the demons, and you can go and rescue.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. Basically,
for Origins, you mean?
In Origins,
for Origins,
okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
You can get one of the best swords in the game that way, because it kind of unlocks headquarters for you in Ferelden. And you get a blacksmith that will forge forge certain weapons for you. Now, in another cutscene, when you're walking, you can find a crater in the ground, and a meteor hit there, and 2 farmers are picking up a baby from that meteor.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Superman.
All right. That's all right. That's funny.
And you
guess.
get an ore from the meteor, and you can forge it into the best sword in the game. So, is that canon? Is Superman going to be born into the?
He'll be like, I don't know, like a cameo, like Hawk, like the same thing Hawk shows up. He's like, "Ew," like, I don't know. That's really funny to think about. I don't know if they'll take it to that degree, but like, I mean, that's like, it almost sounds like a Fallout. Like Fallout would do that kind of shit.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that was totally a DLC thing, and
sure, I guess like it's funny, but this. All right, we're going to wrap up pretty soon, but I want to talk to Steph because EA sucks hardcore with that shit. But there's DLC available for Inquisition right now, except not for me, not for PS4, and not for old gen either, not for last gen. So I'm not putting out. It is out for Xbox One and for PC. They have not really had a release date yet for it. But I really fucking want to play more Dragon Age, and
I was
at least it's it's not worse for you because I can get it. I know I can get it eventually whenever it comes out. But what a dick move! I don't know.
I was brutally disappointed to find out that it was not released for 360.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Bullshit.
What's the DLC about?
It's called Jaws of Hakon. I mentioned it briefly in the bonus points. You play an Inquisitor, I believe, in a previous age, and you're hunting a dragon, or Hakon is a dragon, I believe. But it just sounds. I don't care. It doesn't matter what it was. I was gonna fucking play it. But like,
I know.
That's what it's
like,
called.
I'm gonna buy it. Why aren't you letting me buy it?
Yeah, because EA are bastards, of course, and they have a deal with Microsoft for exclusivity.
Yep.
And therefore they just haven't made it available because of that. EA should stop. I don't know. I guess I get why. I don't want to go into it, but just real quickly, there's no reason for them to publishing it. BioWare's big enough; they could probably do it themselves or get somebody else. But I guess they've had a merger deal, whatever. But regardless, of course, as we just said, Dragon Age is so good. We all want more of it.
We all want more of it.
The second
and you're
we
not
can
letting
get
me
more
have
of
it. Yeah. So they're losing money.
Yeah, no, EA got voted worst company, like worst video game, like 2 years in a row, maybe going on 3 now. But they just make dumb decisions like that. That make no sense.
And hopefully that dumb decision making will continue on to the multiplayer side as well. Which apparently I'm the only one who has delved into it and found it to be agonizing and disappointing and full of lag and jumping in the doorway trying to get through while everybody else is fighting demons. And thought, what a waste of space and time when you could be adding to the real reason why people play these games.
Exactly.
And stop trying to be like Destiny. Yeah. Because Destiny does that really well.
It's completely pointless. Like, that's not... It's shoehorned in, as I said. Like, they felt like they were compelled, or maybe they were forced to do it. Like, the corporate suits were like, you better have multiplayer. Like, it doesn't make any sense to the plot.
Look how well they did.
Yeah.
To loop this all the way back to the original one, I don't play the Dragon Ages for their combat. So, I want a good story there, and multiplayer is generally 100%.
Has a little bit of narration from one of the characters at the beginning, and
it has like the most barest bones possible to keep you there. But again, there's no point to it. Like, I don't know, it doesn't fit in with what
it doesn't. It's completely
with everything else that Dragon Age is.
It's completely disconnected from the story.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same location, it's the same type of characters. You have a little introduction from someone like Varric or Josephine, and then it's just you're fighting along with either friends or random people, or what happened to me is it throws you in there by yourself.
Again, like there's no, it's complete. It doesn't make any sense at all. They could have put time and resources into not developing that, and it just whatever they could have just saved themselves on that if they didn't have to kind of staple the multiplayer mode onto it. But. So perhaps in the future, maybe BioWare will. I mean, Mass Effect in that multiplayer did it? I don't know.
No, it didn't. No.
See, like I said, so I would bet you guys that they were like, corporate suits like, we need multiplayer in this game, and they were like, our fans probably don't want that, but okay, you're a corporate overlords, whatever. Like, you're giving us money, so fine, we'll do it. So maybe that's why. Maybe like, well, we'll make it like shitty enough. Maybe because it's like a fuck you to them, but like kind of like I don't know. But yes, agree. Like, as we said, we started, and I think I'll end on this. Like, we play it for first and foremost, of course, the story, the narrative, the setting, and the characters. And yeah, the gameplay is serviceable enough. Maybe it's not like compared to others the best, but it's not what you're there for. You're there for like the top-notch writing and voice acting. And yes, they give you a lot of agency to like give you a lot of decisions that you can. Whatever you want to choose, there's probably an option for that, depending on who you are, which could be wildly different. And you get like, get like a funny little scene or little line or just something different. We each could. It's like a great water cooler game in the sense that you and I we can discuss at length the various little, paths that we diverge from and what we arrived at.
And the various little different things that each of us
exactly,
finds
and what the payoffs were on that. So I think Dragon Age, the series, you either love it or probably nobody hates it. You're probably like indifferent to it. You're like the Destiny players or like Halo players who are like just there for the action and not so much the story. So it's probably not for you. But if you're interested in narrative and very well done and realized characters, as we all are, I believe, this is probably one of the best series for it.
Definitely.
And hopefully the franchise will continue to be just as quality as it has been. So all right, thank you guys for joining me. I think we'll sign off. I, of course, am Scott Thurlow, as always, and we will see you next time.
I'm Jonathan Manzer, and I will get around to Inquisition eventually.
Maybe.
Stephanie Kozic, and I will see you all at Fate.
Goodbye.
This has been Syntax Error. Thank you, as always, for listening, and we will see you next time. Music by Stephen Hermosi. Editing and engineering by Chris Morgan. Syntax Error is part of a Lost Signals Productions. All rights reserved.